Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? I was over at Pro Football Talk earlier today, and I saw this from Florio, and it was an interesting thought. And I'll run through it, but it had me thinking, like, the question I asked myself was if Jon Gruden is really worth the trouble. So remember, Jon Gruden got fired from the Raiders. We all know what happened. The emails from the investigation into Washington, some 650,000 documents, and there was language in emails that Jon Gruden used that were racial. So he got fired. He has been blacklisted by the NFL largely until he popped up in camp with the Saints this past year. But Gruden hasn't been able to get back in. Well, Jon Gruden filed lawsuit against the NFL. Now, he's not the only person to file a lawsuit against the NFL, only coach. Remember, Brian Flores has a lawsuit as well against the NFL after he was fired by the Dolphins after 1 year. So it's not altogether unprecedented that somebody would sue the NFL. Now, I will remind you that Flores is currently coaching. I mean, he's the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings. So even though he was fired by the Dolphins and filed a lawsuit against the NFL, Flores is employed in the NFL. So for what that's worth, if you're looking at precedent. But Florio mentioned Gruden's lawsuit against the NFL, and he notes that it would create grounds for a separate legal action, but he said that the Saints, he said employers generally cannot hold against a current or former employee a decision by that employee to pursue legal rights against the employer. Essentially what he's saying is, could the NFL step in and try to prevent the Saints from hiring Jon Gruden? They wouldn't necessarily have a legal ground to do that, but could the NFL step in and drop one of those subtle, hey, protect the shield type deals? And we've seen that before. I mean, the one that would be most familiar here was Lyle Collins. Lyle Collins in the 2015 draft would have been a first-round pick, would have been a top half of round one pick. But of course, right at the time of the draft, it came out that he was interviewed as a person of interest in a murder, and we later learned that he had nothing whatsoever to do with that at all. But the NFL kind of subtly went around on draft day to all the teams and were like, Lyle Collins, hey, protect the shield. Because you didn't want to have a guy that could be connected with a murder drafted in round one or anywhere. That's why he fell completely off of everyone's board and out of the draft. It was devastating for Lyle Collins. I mean, he would have been an instant multi-millionaire as a top half of round one pick. It sucked. But the NFL has been known to do that on the lowdown. Down low, no doubt. I knew that would get Muse. It gets him every time. Meet the Parents is one of them. It'll get you every time. Yeah. They can't hear you, Muse. It's okay. And you're still talking, and they can't hear you. If you're going to talk, open your mic. So open your mic. It's fine. Yes.
All right. Well, you were on a roll. I didn't really want to. I mean, you kind of skipped over it and went right back to your thing and then came back to it. So I was just going to let it die. But
we were talking to me.
I know.
Don't talk to me. Talk to the people. Okay. So NFL could tell the Saints, hey, don't hire Gruden. Not legally, but could. So I got to thinking, all right, the Saints could clearly disobey the NFL. They could do whatever they want legally. So is it worth the trouble to hire Jon Gruden? That's really my question. So I was like, Gruden has this reputation as this quarterback whisperer and this great offensive mind. And so in my head, I'm thinking all these years that Mike Detillier was on our show every Thursday for an hour. Every Thursday for an hour for 10 years, I talked to Mike Detillier. And of course, there was a lot of those years where Gruden was the coach in Tampa. And so the Saints played the Bucs twice a year. And so I had conversations about Saints, Bucs, Jon Gruden with Mike Detillier every year, like a dozen times. Well, I had it beaten into my brain by Mike all those years that Jon Gruden, like he would laugh at the idea that Gruden was a quarterback whisperer. And he would say, where's the quarterback? Where's the great quarterbacks? And he's not wrong. He ain't wrong. I mean, Rich Gannon became an MVP in Oakland after Gruden left for Tampa Bay. His first season with Callahan. Gannon was the MVP in Oakland. Of course, they lost to the Bucs in the Super Bowl that year, but that was Brad Johnson. Nobody's putting Brad Johnson's bust in the Hall of Fame. Who else did Jon Gruden mentor in Tampa that was just awe-inspiring? Well, of course, then he leaves coaching. He goes to the Monday Night Football booth. He has his retired football coaches thing that he did, the series on ESPN, where he would tutor quarterbacks and whatnot. And then he gets back into the NFL in 2018 with the Raiders, and he spent 3 full seasons and parts of the 21 season in Oakland/Las Vegas. And I was like, let me see how he did there. Here were Jon Gruden's total offense finishes with the Raiders. So 3 full seasons and then parts of the 4th season. First year, they were 23rd in total offense. Second year, 11th. Third year, 8th. And then in the year he was fired, they finished 11th. So I looked at that and I was like, man, it's a pretty clear trend, right? When he takes over year 1, they're 23rd, then they go to 11th, then to 8th, top 10. I mean, there's a very clear parallel. I was like, well, that was total offense. Let me look at scoring offense, because sometimes total yards can be deceiving. Like, you cannot be very good. You can move the ball up and down the field. You could struggle. You could be down and how do you think the Emperor of Empty Yards got his nickname, eh? Indeed. I mean, you're down, and then you're down by 30 to the Rams, and all of a sudden you have 2 quick touchdown drives. Now you got a 300-yard passing day that 50 years from now they're going to look back and go, man, Derek Carr sure played well on that Thursday night against the Rams. Defense just couldn't hold on. No. He was atrocious for 3.5 quarters, and the game was over, and then he started chucking the ball downfield. So here's your scoring totals. In 2018, when the Raiders were 23rd in total offense, they were 28th in scoring. In 2019, when they were 11th in total offense, they were 24th in scoring. Now, 2020, the COVID year, they were 8th in total offense and 10th in scoring offense. And then in 2021, 11th in total, 18th in scoring. Every single year, they ranked higher in total offense than they did in scoring offense. You do know the parallel, right? Like, you understand. You understand the connective fiber, the connective tissue here? You get a lot of yards, but not a lot of points. Why is that? I want you to say it out loud with me. Say, if you're in your car, wherever if you get a lot of yards, but not a lot of points, where are you bogging down on the field? Following me? Anybody? Muse? Paulie? Anybody?
The red zone.
Oh, give yourself a ding. Hot damn. Who's the worst red zone quarterback in the NFL?
Derek Carr. Oh, yeah.
Right he is. How do you think he got the nickname, brother? Because he'll move you up and down the field, but he can't score. Same thing he's doing right now in New Orleans, he did in Las Vegas and Oakland with Jon Gruden. He'll move up and down the field, but you ain't scoring. Because you get in the red zone, and he stinks. For what it's worth, the other candidates that the Saints are considering for offensive coordinator they have formal interviews with, the Bengals were 10th this year in the NFL in red zone offense. The Rams were 8th this year in the NFL in red zone offense. And who am I missing? Rams, Bengals.
Seahawks. Waldron. Shane Waldron.
I didn't write that one down. My bad. Point is, you understand my point. I don't know that Jon Gruden's worth the trouble. The NFL already hates the New Orleans Saints. Now, maybe it was just Roger Goodell hating Sean Payton. And so some of that might have laxed a bit because Payton's no longer here. But I don't need the NFL. I've seen what it's like with the NFL pissed off at my team for 15 years. I don't know if this is worth the trouble. I mean, my sentiment has been pretty consistently that, look, if Jon Gruden helps you maximize Derek Carr, then I get it because you got $100 million invested in Derek Carr. You need to get the max return on that investment. Okay. But I don't know that it's worth it. Maybe a new voice who can unlock something different offensively with the Saints is what they need. Because quite honestly, that's what I keep yelling about anyway. Get rid of Mickey Loomis. Get rid of Dennis Allen. Get rid of Pete Carmichael. Get rid of Derek Carr. Like, get rid of this old regime, which was the greatest run we've ever seen, and I'm grateful for it. But they keep doubling down, trying to get to where they were instead of looking forward. They're living through the rearview mirror. How do we get back to where we were instead of looking forward to say, how do we get where we're going? So yes, give me something new and fresh and innovative. And I don't think that's Jon Gruden. Especially not if it's Jon Gruden and Derek Carr. Glad you all are standing now. I would hate to have to see you two beheaded. It'd be very difficult to do your jobs without heads. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.